do you have like weird like jingles, like commercial jingles that get stuck in your head, or like things like I was just thinking like
I've said this before. I get the Grinch stuck in my head a lot.
yeah, I know, but like it like commercial like okay, so do you remember the commercial for the game Crossfire, or is that a little bit not your generation? Is that am I
think you're reaching a bit.
Yeah, I'm reaching a little bit.
I think you're reaching a little bit.
Like, Crossfire. I
guess Happy Days.
Sunday, Monday, happy days.
Yeah, because I was also like, for the VHS of The Phantom, they had like a whole compilation like video in the beginning.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Remember that?
I had the Phantom. I had it.
I remember it was and it showed like Short Circuit, and it showed a bunch of other like movies.
Oh my god! Yeah,
all compiled into one to the happy. So I think that just kind of deep seated.
I strangely had the weird PSA of just like the dad yelling at his kid, and then the kid the dad's like, "Where did you even get this from? I learned it from watching you."
Oh yeah.
I saw. I think it was like I was watching like it was the Dark Side of the '90s, the Vice documentary, and they were bringing up like PSAs, and then just that PSA came up, and I'd forgotten that it was a PSA because I've seen it's a joke, you know, it's like in our culture now. It's like I learned it from watching you. I just for the first time watching the PSA, it was just I died laughing. And now now every once in a while I just see somebody doing something weird. I'm like, I learned it from watching you.
Or if anytime I zone out really hard, I have the you wouldn't steal a purse.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't steal a car. So if you ever see me have this really zoned out, that because it's like static flashes of that popping through my head.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. That went off kind of off the rails there.
Yeah, that was good. All right, let's do this.
This is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is Tommy and Jacob's mixtape. Hey everybody.
Hey yo, zap zip zip zow, zip zap doo doo dow. What if I talk like that the entire episode? Would you?
I'm gonna walk out. So right off the top,
yeah. Let's get it out of the way. That's important. Content warning for you guys.
Again.
Yeah. So we're doing. So you guys know we're doing What Dreams May Come. If you didn't know, well, you already clicked on the. Now that I realize that they're clicking on the episode,
Yeah.
You know what we're fucking talking about.
Well, first and foremost, we couldn't come up with anything, so we started doing this new thing of a random word generator.
Yes.
And so we just go on this website, click it, and then it tells us a random noun, and then we're like, let's think of two movies to fit into said thing. I did it, and the theme that came, what?
Regret's a noun?
Yeah, right? No, I don't know.
Anywho, the word
I didn't mean to say noun. I meant word.
I was like, wait a second.
I just know we went on the settings and we've hit nouns before.
I think it can be a noun. Sorry.
Can't it?
I mean, it's a person, place, or thing. No, it's or an idea.
Person, place, or thing, or idea.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
I guess I've just always kind of thought
I guess
of
it
more
depends
as
on
like
the
an
context.
adjective. Yeah.
The context of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to sound real stupid if I'm wrong. But anyways, the word was regret, which we both were like,
cool. Oh, that peaked.
Because the last two episodes were kind of heavy, so
Yeah.
we're going to have two more heavy ones, and then hopefully we'll go a little lighter later on.
Yeah. So yeah, we decided to do What Dreams May Come, and due to the heavy nature of this film and just kind of like the last two, we did kind of do our content warning, the suicide triggering content stuff. We are going to be putting into our posts this week that you've already seen, or if you haven't seen, suicide help hotlines, and we do want to say, like, we don't take this stuff lightly. If yourself or anybody you know is, openly expressed like feelings of dark place feelings like that, ask them to reach out either to you or to the suicide helpline. Also, if you yourself reach out, they can give you tools to help talk to somebody as well that's in that situation as well. So we'll have check that information out if you need it, and if you want to share it with anybody else, because it's a horrible thing to go through for people.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into the meat of it. Yeah.
I guess so.
You ready?
Let's do it.
What dreams dreams may come. Not a wrestling name. Sorry, I didn't choose it like, and here it comes.
I saw someone online compared it to a bad porn parody title.
When dreams may come.
Yeah, I guess if you say it like that. Released October 2nd, 1998.
Yeah, its premiere was September 28th. This kind of got a mixed bag of reviews I saw. So it's got a 7.0 full IMDb, but 53% tomato meter rating. So like kind of low on the critic side, but 84% audience score. And then the Metacritic was 44%.
Mm-hmm.
So... And I actually, so this is my first time watching this, actually. It was weird. As I was watching, I'm like, I feel like I have seen this. But then I was like really strangely connecting the Sixth Sense to this movie in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. Especially the beginning there.
Oh, 100% the beginning. Like when he's pretty much haunting her.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can kind of vibe with the critics with this movie. And we'll get into that more. I can see why it's very much a... beloved movie by people, like audience, you know.
Yeah.
But I can see why critics would have their qualms with it, if that makes sense. Going down the rabbit hole of box office, I saw that on domestic it was number 40, but then worldwide it was number 49.
Yes.
Do you have any more information on that?
How many did you watch out of 98?
I had 56 out of 200.
I had 55.
I beat you by one.
Kind of give an idea too. Armageddon, Saving Private Ryan, Godzilla, Something About Mary, A Bug's Life. This is when it roughly came out.
Yeah.
Some of these movies I didn't realize are as old as they are.
No, not at all. Oh, that's okay. Well, I guess when we get to Robin Williams, we'll talk about that because one of those I was just like, what?
Oh, okay.
Like how old it was. Like I thought it was not as old. I mean, I knew it was 90s, but I didn't realize it was like early 90s. Yeah.
And then just on the box office thing too, a budget of 85 million and grossed about 71 million and some change worldwide.
Yeah.
So, but it was also like, what was it? I missed Oh yeah, which is kind of funny. It was like second highest grossing film in the U.S. box office its opening weekend.
Yeah,
so it did really well off the bat, and then it kind of fizzled out.
I think
really
it's
quick.
because of Robin Williams.
Yeah, probably.
Because this is 98. This is
like his heyday. This is when he was
the peak of Robin Williams.
Yeah, when he was in everything.
This is kind of like I would say this is kind of like the when he started kind of like going. I don't want to say downhill.
I think he started doing more dramatic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he wasn't really a box office name anymore. You know. Which I didn't. I mean, I always forget how much of a career he had through the 80s.
I just always forget how much of a career he had
in general.
That's
fair. All right, let's. What's your synopsis? You're about to What did I say last week?
Deceased father uses afterlife to reunite with kids and wife in a Dante-esque setting and theme.
I didn't really. Oh, I like the Dante-esque. I didn't really pick up on. I see what you're saying, but I didn't really initially get that.
The Dante thing?
Yeah.
That's what it was just screaming to me. I mean, Dante's is better.
I mean, he goes through, what, 7? How many rings? 7 rings?
7 rings?
Yeah, because it's about 7.
Well,
7,
Inferno, and then...
Yeah.
Purgatory, and then Paradiso.
Yeah, and this I don't know,
this is
Dante light.
This is, Dante... Well, this is also kind of Dante in reversed, because he goes from Purgatory...
Dante's Beach.
He goes from purgatory to paradise to hell back to you know what I mean? So it's like a weird order.
Dante's warm beach.
I'm not getting it.
Instead of Dante's Inferno.
Oh yeah, okay.
Dante's warm beach. Okay, I'm done. I thought it was funny. All right, so let's go into directors and people behind this, the stuff of this. So this was directed by Vincent Ward, who I didn't see anything noteworthy rather than this.
Well, I think in certain circles.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, because also if you go through, did you read any of like the synopsis of a few of his?
No, not really.
They sound cool. Like, was a director for The Navigator, A Medieval Odyssey in 88. Is that right? Yeah, in 88. Man seeking relief from the Black Death, guided by a boy's vision, dig a tunnel from 14th century England to 20th century New Zealand.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like, there's a couple, and then there's one. Oh yeah. In spring, a documentary filmed over 18 months. This moving documentary tells the story of an elderly woman charged with caring for her adult son Nicky, who suffers from schizophrenia in the isolated area of the northern New Zealand islands. Just like I was like, oh, there's some interesting stuff I've ever heard of, but I'm like, I'd watch it. That sounds really interesting. But yeah, nothing that really stood out to me.
I found it kind of weird that he has this OnStar Batman thing.
And I forgot about OnStar.
So did I. And I kind of remember these commercials. But then I'm curious now. I want to kind of compile a list of all of the obscure people that have played like Batman in like a canceled series or weird one-off commercial things like this. Because even the guy that plays the Joker in it, I think he was Booger in Revenge of the Nerds.
I don't remember Revenge of the Nerds well enough.
That's fair. But like, I'm just like, oh, and then like, it's like just kind of weird thinking like, who like to compile a weird list of just like people that throughout the years that have played Batman and the Joker that it's like, yeah, they got this like one-off bit, you know, but they can't. What is weird is like they have that claim to fame that it's like, I played the Joker on the OnStar Batman commercials.
Well, yeah, because his name is Bruce Thomas.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, that's like I was reading it as Bruce Timm, who's one of the producers of the animated Batman show. I was like, oh, that's weird. He actually, but no, it's Bruce Thomas.
No, and it has Alfred from the Tim Burton
Michael Gough.
I actually don't know the actor's name.
Mike, how would you say that?
I don't have it in front of me.
Gough.
Gough. Almost. It's almost like Van Gogh or Van. Gogh. I guess Van Gogh. Actually, it's technically pronounced Van Gogh. I think.
Well, yeah, he's the only one. That got, like,
it's. I mean, let's not. Yeah, but I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of like compile like deep dive. That would be a weird deep dive. Try to find, you know.
Would like Zach Galifianakis be on that list for like Joker?
No, I want to say the Lego Batman movie would belong on that list because that's a pretty well known.
So you're looking for really just obscure.
Yeah, like there was like in the Birds of Prey.
Yeah,
you know, like that show itself is
Titans.
Like, no,
still too popular.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like people don't even know that Birds of Prey series exists. Like I showed it to Rufo, and Rufo was like, he was like, "What? I've never heard of this." And my roommate, he's just as big as a comic book nerd as Tommy and I, and just as big as a Batman nerd as us. And
elitist bastard.
And he was like, "What the? I've never heard of this." So yeah, but yeah, we're not talking about that. That was a rabbit hole that we just went down. That's my bad.
But anyways, yeah, Vincent Ward. There are some. If you like this movie, I would definitely check out his list and see if there's something that interests you.
What's his most recent one?
2008, Reign of the Children.
Like rain, like in like
rain, rain, go away. That's what.
Like the weather thing.
Yeah, like rain.
Okay.
I don't know why with that song.
And neither do I.
It's just a documentary.
Okay. So let's go into.
I'd read it, but it's really long.
That's fine. Let's go into writers. Let's do novelist last because I think that'll be a little bit more of a conversation.
Okay.
Because Ronald Bass, who wrote the screenplay, I just kind of wrote down the things that I'd like seen that he had done. Which was he wrote his screenplay for Rain Man, Dangerous Minds, Mozart and the Whale, which was filmed in Spokane actually.
Which I want to see. That looked interesting.
It's. I don't know how it's two mentally capable people playing people on the spectrum. So I don't know how it would be well received today. You know what I mean? But it's fun. Josh Hartnett's good in it. I shouldn't say it's fun. It's dramatic.
It's fucking hilarious. Is Entrapment that one? Is that the one?
This is Entrapment.
Is that the one with the wires with the bells or the yarn with the bells?
I'm pretty sure.
And she has to learn how to like bypass it.
Sean Connery.
That's all I remember about that movie. Yeah. But yeah, I've been a writer for 37 movies. Also, actually went in is a novelist too.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Wrote 3 novels: Perfect Thief, Lime's Crisis, a novel, and Emerald Illusion.
Okay.
Which I just thought was interesting.
Cool. So yeah, he wrote the screenplay for this, but I think more notably, I think people are going to be connected to the person who wrote the actual book this movie was based off of. And the novelist is Richard Matheson, who is most famous for really writing I Am Legend. I think is probably his most popular novel.
Again,
you paused for a second.
Again, in circles, I think. Like, because Hell House.
I don't know what Hell House.
Shrinking Man.
Oh yeah. Well,
There's like I think it kind of depends on what you look for.
That's fair. Well, I mean, he was a horror science fiction writer,
which he didn't like. He didn't like being considered horror.
Interesting. That's weird.
Because I was reading that a lot of people, when he wrote this, kind of, and his fans kind of turned on him because it wasn't the usual horror thing. And I got this quote that I really enjoyed from him. Horror connotes blood and guts, while terror is a much more subtle art, a matter of stirring up primal fears.
Okay.
He felt as though he's more of a thriller writer, not a horror writer.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, if you really want to like get down to the nook and cranny of like the idea of the word, I kind of just had this conversation with my barber about this because he's not a big horror fan, but he likes psychological thrillers. I'm like, well, that can still be technically horror.
Well, Julia's the same way.
Yeah, because like some people automatically connect horror with like slasher, like blood everywhere. It's like, nah, it's not necessarily a horror. Like that is a horror, but like a ghost story can be horrific,
Yeah, but I like the idea of kind of making a branch off the umbrella for a terror movie. Like I Am Legend is a movie. It's a primal fight or flight survival movie against this terrifying force. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting idea.
Yeah. So when it came to film, so like a handful of his novels have been turned into films, but he's also like written for like the Twilight Zone, written to couple of my favorite episodes actually. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which is the famous one with William Shatner and the gremlin on the wing. There's something on the wing.
That's in the movie, right?
Yeah, that's the one with the movie. John Lithgow as well.
John Lithgow's in the movie, right?
Okay, William Shatner did the original.
Oh, okay, I was like,
have you never seen the original one?
No,
it's goofy. Well, yeah. For the time, it was super scary, but the gremlin costume is.
I attempted watching the show. I thought it was really goofy, but I do like the movie. That's also goofy, but
but the movie, like, it's updated graphics and like updated like makeup and whatnot. I mean, you got like, I really love the Twilight Zone and respect it very much because of like, it's just like what it did for like the science fiction and horror genre.
Did you ever watch the new one?
Like the one with Jordan Peele did? No, I never got around to it. But I mean, it's out there for me to watch.
Yeah.
But one of my other favorite ones that he wrote that's kind of like, it's not as known is Night Call. And I remember I watched this one when I was kind of a younger kid, and it freaked the hell out of me because it's paranormal type shit. This older woman just keeps getting this phone call, getting harassed in the middle of the night. And like every time she answers, it's like they're like saying her name, but it's like really raspy, like, and she like freaks out. And she's like can't figure out what's going on. Every time she picks up the phone, her phone is disconnected. And then finally, after like there's a storm outside, that's like what happened. She finds out that there's no way for her to have been getting any phone calls throughout the night because her telephone line had been broken down. So she like follows it back and goes to the graveyard, and the telephone line had landed onto her dead husband's grave, and he was reaching her from the grave. That's cool. She breaks down thinking like, oh my God, I could have actually had another conversation, one last conversation with my husband. Like fucking dude, Twilight Zone was so good.
I liked the racist one. Like he's
one?
He's like a total like piece of shit, and he keeps like being put into these situations.
When he keeps going like
he's in the Holocaust as a Jewish person. He is
running
running from a lynch mob.
I can't remember the name of them, but I know which one you're talking about.
It's like putting him in these situations that he's like justifying in his head.
I'm thinking of the one where the guy gets put into the body of Cuban dictator.
No, whatever. If you don't remember the name, I remember that one. That one really stood out to me.
Yeah, okay. Well, Richard Matheson, he also he wrote several adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe stories for Roger Corman, like House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, Tales and Terror. So like he worked with Vincent Price a good amount too. So
Stephen King says it like it was a big inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Richard Matheson. Oh, he passed away in 2013, and yeah, started his first publication was just somewhere in the 1950s. Yeah, he was writing for the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. So we don't have as much of I didn't really go down as much as a deep dive with him like I have with other novelists in the past.
Well, I think that something, especially when it correlates to him and this in particular, especially when you talk about the comparisons, is What Dreams May Come, the novel. He did a lot of research into a lot of different ideologies to create.
Yes.
So it's more like this it's ideologies with main characters for you to kind of like wrap your head around these different things. And that was just kind of an interesting take of like, it's more about learning about these ideologies through the eyes of these characters.
Yeah.
Not so much about the characters, but more about what could happen. And I was reading, I meant to write it down, but I was reading this article. Do I have it on? No, I don't have it here. But he thought that this was one of his most important works, mainly because people came up to him and expressed that they no longer feared death because of the novel.
Oh, wow.
And he felt really like, I don't know, like assured that like it was a good coping mechanism for people in their fear of death.
He felt like he had actually helped.
Yeah, and he reached people in a way he hadn't before, which I thought was really interesting.
That is really cool. And yeah, I feel like just due to like his like the history of like what we just said with like Twilight Zone and like, you know, Edgar Allan Poe stuff, like this movie is kind of like a step out of that regular like genre for him.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is like I have I have like the list of the differences between the book and the movie, and I would have much rather have seen a more honest adaptation of the book.
I feel like this got a real big
Hollywood brush
Hollywood
over. 100%. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Because even like the alternate ending that I read, I was like, that is so much better
for the movie.
Yeah, there's an alternate ending.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. Oh, you watched the alternate ending? Did you own this?
No.
Where'd you watch it? Oh, is it on YouTube? Oh, I didn't even think about doing that. YouTube. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right before you got here, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll talk about the differences later when we kind of go through the movie and talk about the movie. So let's go into starring. Who it's starring, and really, leading man Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, who I did not realize that he had passed away in 2014.
Did you think he was still alive?
No. I knew he passed away. I just didn't realize it was that long ago.
I guess it doesn't feel like that.
It doesn't
2014
feel that way.
doesn't feel like that long ago.
It doesn't.
2014 is a while. I mean,
yeah.
I was still in school. We talked about we never released Jumanji.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I remember actually when I heard the news that he passed away. Me and Taylor were walking down Denny. I think maybe to go to 5 Point to get some food or something, and I remember stopping like pretty much like in the middle of the fucking crosswalk, seeing that Robin Williams had passed away, and just I teared up. Like I needed to take a moment and like gather myself, like because he was such an inspiration for me as a young kid, and he's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a performer. I grew up watching so much of his stuff, and it was really heartbreaking. Even like sometimes I think like if I think about it too hard, I might tear up because fuck, actually kind of fitting for with our trigger warning just because of Robin as well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think about that with that connection with the movie. And
really?
I'm like, wow, why did it have hello, my darling?
Well, we were watching it too, and my partner was asking, do you think he had a hard time doing these roles? And I was like, yeah, very possibly. I mean, obviously I don't know him, but I mean, for someone that was battling with this, I mean, I'm sure there were good years and bad years and good days and bad days, but especially for some of the heavier stuff.
It could have been strangely cathartic for him, too.
Yeah, like, you really don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he sought out certain roles like this. Like, he wanted to do Patch Adams.
Yeah.
That's based on a real story of a doctor who was suicidal for quite some time.
But yeah, Robin Williams. Some titles you might recognize: Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Post Society, Hook, Fern Gully. Lighten it up.
Quick tone shift. Here we go, yes. So I never realized how old Hook was.
Really?
I don't know why or how. I thought Hook came out after Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, I thought it was more of like a 94, 95 movie, not 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like,
because also it's aged really well.
Yeah, no, it really has.
It really aged
I went down a weird rabbit hole of what that movie truly is, and then the guy who wrote Peter Pan. But but also, like, so one of the things I wanted to that we were kind of talking about, maybe discussing, because what the movie we're pairing this with is comedic actors that have gone dramatic. And I thought that maybe this was one of his more earlier dramatic roles. I'm like, no, he had been doing just some dramatic stuff even like through the 80s. Like, I feel like his probably the biggest, like his first pop was Dead Poet Society.
Yeah,
like, he's still a very like charming, I don't want to say goofy, but outgoing teacher.
Goofy's okay. He's goofy.
Yeah, fair. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yeah, he's a goof, but like in a very endearing way.
That's the word I'm looking for. He's very endearing. Yeah. But like that's a very dramatic movie as well. But like I guess his role isn't the most dramatic role in the movie. The kids have the more dramatic roles.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of
because even if but that's the thing too, is even in like his quote unquote comedies, like even if you think about Mrs. Doubtfire, he has a couple moments in there where he is like heartfelt pleading with the judge to not take his kids away.
Oh, dude,
and he's like showing like this other depth besides being
yeah,
you never had a friend like me. Woo! Like
I'm joking. Sorry. Well, I mean, even I go into the movie Jack, and I think that was one of my favorite movies of his growing up, where he plays the kid. He's like actually a fourth grader. Like he has like a disease where he ages too fast.
Mm-hmm. Remember Jack?
Yeah. I loved that movie growing up. I love the idea of like Robin Williams being a big kid, pretty much. Well,
this is one of those too. I was trying to figure out what my favorite like one was, and I was like, okay, it's definitely Hook. Oh wait. But there's Death to Smoochie. Oh, wait. But there's also Toys. Oh, wait, no, but there's also 1 Hour Photo. Oh, wait, there's, I was just like, I actually don't, I think.
It's like Birdcage. I mean, it's like, that's what I love that movie too.
Yeah, but I love.
You love Nathan Lane.
I love Nathan Lane in that. Oh, I love their relationship.
Their relationship, their chemistry is like, which is, it's actually fucking, it's like, I would want to play Armand in that movie. Oh. We should totally cosplay that.
You're such bitches. The Purine tablets. Oh, calm down. It's an aspirin. I just scratch off the A. Well, then also just in that way too. I mean, have you ever seen An Angriest Man in Brooklyn or Merry Frickin' Christmas?
I think I tried watching Merry Frickin' Christmas. That's Joel McHale, right?
Yeah, it's Joel McHale. They play father son.
Yeah, I tried to watch it this Christmas or this holiday season, and I don't know. I just couldn't get into it.
Well, those both came out in 2014.
Yeah.
Right before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Or I actually don't know exactly when. But Angriest Man in Brooklyn's really good, but it's eerie to watch because of what ended up happening.
Yeah. Because
he plays a man who's just an angry man, but then he also finds out by a miscommunication with his doctor that he is dying of cancer. So it kind of it kind of spirals out into this kind of like wanting to make amends, but still really pissed off, not only just about your life in general, but now that it's also ending.
Yeah.
And he's really great in it, but it's like really heart-wrenching to watch.
Yeah.
Because of what happened.
Yeah.
But it's really good, and it's one of his last movies. But it's, if you want a really intense Robin Williams, Angriest Man in Brooklyn is like really like, okay. But it's really good though.
You said it was like one of his last films too,
yeah,
right?
well, it came out in 2014.
Yeah.
When he passed away. So I'm not sure when it lined up. But.
You're talking about like, you're not sure when he actually filmed it?
Mm-mm.
I mean, like, because like his last two that I remember seeing like released was the Night at the Museum 3, 2, one of the 90 museums.
I think he's in all three. I just discovered there was a third one. I went, how did I secret about Tommy.
He loves him.
I love Nightmare. I love Night at the Museum.
You know who wrote those, right?
No, who?
Tom Lennon, Reno 911.
Oh. I love Reno 911.
Do you actually?
I love Reno 911.
Oh. I don't know why that surprises me, but God damn it. I
love Reno. Oh, that's funny. Oh, yeah, and I just discovered there's a third one, and I'm pretty sure he's in the third one too.
Yeah. Let's quickly go through the next couple actors.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, we are kind of dragging a little bit, but that's fine. So then I would say like next biggest would be, they'll do Annabella Sciorra, which really I didn't recognize her anything other than this.
She is somebody. Well, I thought it was funny. She was in Cadillac Man with Robin Williams.
Fair, yeah.
I remember her a little bit in Sopranos. Funny enough, Sopranos came up again.
I was trying to remember who she was in Daredevil. I couldn't piece that.
That's the thing. She's someone that's been around forever.
Yeah.
She's been episodes of, you name it, Law and Order, ER, Grey's. Like she's been around forever. And that's one of those, like she's one of those people that it looks really familiar to me, but I really can't. The only other big title that I recognize, and I don't even remember it all the way through, was Jungle Fever.
And I don't remember that movie
at all. I remember seeing it once when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe is she the other woman in it? I don't know.
I don't even know. I don't even know what that movie is. I mean, I think I should know that movie, but I'm not remembering the movie.
You should probably. It's one that we're probably never gonna really do.
That's fine. But yeah. So yeah, she plays his wife in the movie.
Yes.
And then
Annie.
Yeah. Then so Cuba Gooding Jr. is the next one, who you'd probably recognize from Jerry Maguire or Radio, Boys in the Hood. Rat Race is one of my favorite roles from him.
Oh, I forgot he was in Rat Race.
Yeah, Rat Race is great. And then Max von Sydow, who I think more of our generation will recognize him more from Game of Thrones as the three-eyed raven in the tree.
I really, when I think of Max, I think of Seventh Seal.
Have you seen that,
Yeah,
actually?
it's cool.
I've never actually watched it.
Really cool.
Okay.
It's weird, but it's really cool.
Yeah.
Playing chess with the Grim Reaper
Yeah.
and talking about life and death. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Oh,
It'd be
maybe
cool.
that's where he came up. When we were talking about Last Action Hero, I think, then. No, maybe not. But he's also in the original Dune and also in the 90s Judge Dredd. And I mean, he's around. He's been in...
My next one's Minority Report.
Yeah.
He's a big character in Minority Report. Oh, and he's the voice of Vigo from Ghostbusters too.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you got for reviews, bud?
Okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I always like to have it open here just in case I totally. First one, did an Ebert at Chicago Sun-Times. So breathtaking, so beautiful, so bold in its imagination. Then it's a surprise at the end to find it doesn't finally deliver. Mm-hmm. And then like a little tidbit that I also took. This is a film that even imperfect forms show how movies can imagine the unknown, lead our imaginations into wonderful places, and contains heartbreaking performances. So, and this one I really did agree with because it really like, how do I word this without sounding like a total D-bag? I remember this movie being better.
Yeah, that's fair.
Than it as an adult.
It's performances.
Yeah, like both Robin and Annabelle are, and then together are really great together.
Yes.
But by the end of it too, there was just some moments, and this is, I think, more not so much like this is the Hollywood slapping their sticker on it. There was just some parts that were just really cheesy
and really forced.
When it's like this movie had a lot to offer, and what I think happened too is that they wanted to make it so I guess the general Hollywood public end of it would like it. But it's like, no, you needed this to be kind of a weirder art film and really lean into that. And maybe not, you wouldn't get the...
I don't necessarily need to be more of like an art. I mean, if they honestly just following the source material a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
What I think they were trying to do is they were trying to get a box office hit out of something that was never going to be a box office hit.
Yeah. But I mean...
And they shouldn't have worried about it.
Yeah. And it is visually stunning. Like...
Visually, it's really cool.
I'm actually... I kind of wanted to bring up the art director and whatnot, because this movie won an Academy Award for not art direction, visual special effects. It won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but it was nominated also for Best Art Direction. And the people that did the visual effects are the same people that did the bullet motion in the Matrix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I found this article called "Painting the Afterlife in What Dreams May Come." This was by Ian Fales. It doesn't have a publication date, but they're interviewing Nicholas Brooks, who was one of the people. So, like, the four people that pretty much, the work and other painterly imagery in the film would ultimately result in the Academy Award, awarded to Nicholas Brooks, Joel Hynek, Kevin Mack, and Stuart Robinson. And then through the three of them, there's like, they had worked with, like, one of them had worked on The Fifth Element and Big Fish. A couple of them worked on Predator and Mortal Kombat. And then one of them worked on like The Italian Job and The Mummy. Lucy and It, The Matrix. So like this team just kind of like they've worked around and like a lot of those movies have some pretty good visual effects.
Yeah, whether or not they're like good movies or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So quick shout out to them because this movie like the when they first introduced the world of like how it's the painting in the painting is stunning actually for its time.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't age that well, but that's fine because of like I think just for what they were doing for the time.
Well, just in general,
Like even watching The Matrix today, the first Matrix, like that's clearly a lot of CG.
Yeah.
Over the time, I remember it was like, mind blowing.
When you say Matrix, I think of that first Trinity kick.
Oh,
when they go around like that, it's like it's a little like okay, computers. Then a mixed review. Todd McCarthy at Variety, a heaping serving of metaphysical gobbledygook wrapped in a physically striking package.
Yeah,
And then who did I pick? And then Peter Travers at Rolling Stone for the negative. How could a film look so radiant and be so hollow?
I don't think it's hollow.
That's the thing, though. There are moments like that. They do feel. It does feel hollow.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, because I actually had a hard time kind of like even thinking about something like as like a review for my own mind. So like I just kind of started like asking questions like that this movie's like coming from. It's like this movie's like asking like what is reality? What is the afterlife? What is self? What is death? And like when I was thinking about like how is this in theme with regret, it's like this like loss of family, loss of oneself, is kind of like the regret of this film. Like,
well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going with the theme of regret, our main character is Annie.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually kind of a big thing. It was like I was thinking about, and I kind of do feel like this is more of a story for Annie, than it is for Chris.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's a really a story for Annie through Chris's eyes.
Yeah,
because we're seeing his perception of what's going on and bits of hers.
Yeah,
but it's really like his. It's
like I feel like that's kind of what Matheson was writing in the original book, but then Hollywood got this thing is like, well, if we're going to be watching Chris, he needs to have this weird journey, which is why they then forced this idea of the two, like of Lena and Arthur being his kids. That wasn't in the book. Mm-hmm. That's not part of the story at all. That's a Hollywood idea.
Well, even the kids aren't really part of the story, because they're adults in the book.
Yeah, they actually don't even pass away. So that's another another added layer that they just wanted just to have this woman. It's almost like why this woman wouldn't be suicidal if she still had her children. It's like, no, she lost her soulmate. Like she can go people go through dark times,
Yeah, I mean, I could just see too. Sorry, I think I peeked there. Like Hollywood also being like, let's make this sadder. Let's get some kids involved. Like kind of like idea.
And also, the whole like forced idea of like all of a sudden like the kids like they're these different people in the afterlife. I was like, what the fuck? Like this is like a forced idea that doesn't make any sense to this.
But it doesn't have to be. It just felt like it did.
Felt like it was forced?
Yeah. But the idea itself, it's like, no, it's your heaven. You can be whoever you want. But when they make it, it has to be attached to the father and his memories.
Yes.
That's where it gets weird.
No, exactly. It's like, well, then if this is his heaven, this is like all like a weird mental trip he's putting himself through because they're entering like, I was like, this, like a lot of this doesn't make sense.
Well, even like the son saying that's the only guy you ever listened to.
Yeah.
When they show conversations between the father and son, Robin still listens, Chris still listens to his kid. He just has I'm your father and this is the things that I want from you. Yeah. What do you think about it? Like they didn't make it where Chris had never once listened or made it very clear that Chris was a very absentee father. And so he picked a form that he knew his dad would listen to.
Yeah.
They didn't really lean. A lot of this is just kind of like carrot wise of just kind of like, well.
Yeah, but not good carrots. You don't want to swallow it.
You're like, well, because
you want to question the taste.
Because you're going into theology, you're going into afterlife and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, he kills what's his butt kills somebody with a carrot. Like, cool, I guess it's an action movie. I'll take it. But when you got, it's already hard things to wrap your head around.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like with a movie that's already got a lot of feeling and theme of grief and already an idea of questioning of what is self, what is reality. like to then add this extra layer of like, oh, these kids create their own reality that they're trying to hide, that they're creating so that they can test their father to see if he can actually like look through their reality to find out who they really are.
Yeah, I was like, man, these kids are you're in heaven and you're lying a lot.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of like like it's, and then also even like what I forget his name, the tracker, is that what he was?
Yeah,
Max von Sydow. His character's not even in the book. He was an added character for the movie, and having him be like, oh, he's the doctor that he looked up to,
but now he's an old white guy, not an older black guy.
Yeah, that was also another weird thing. Is like, why is everybody changing race in this movie? in heaven,
whatever you want.
Like, what the fuck is happening?
All right, let's get into the. Did we do everything? Did we do the homework part?
Yeah, I mean, well, as we're kind of going through it, I guess like kind of the things to think
I think
about.
these are gonna gonna come up.
What is reality? So
in this movie we meet Chris and Annie. Chris is a well-off pediatrician.
Yeah.
And Annie is a successful curator and artist.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's another difference. They're urbanites.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, from the book.
Yeah, like they're urbanites. They're successful.
Oh yeah, what were they in the? Oh, he was a playwright or something.
She had like various jobs around.
But the opening of the movie is it's a nice meet cute. With them on the boats, and like he's just like they're fucking somewhere in Europe, like floating around Switzerland.
I was reading that. I kept reading that they said they were in Switzerland, but she started the conversation off in
French, right?
Italian.
In Italian, that's what it was. Okay.
So like she assumed that he was Italian, so I would assume they were in Italy.
I don't know.
But then they start talking about Switzerland.
Yeah, and he's like, oh no, Switzerland's over there.
A lot of like the summaries say they were in Switzerland, but I'm like, then why did she start off in Italian and then she started off in Swiss and then she goes, oh, you're American? And he goes, oh, so are you? So I was confused. I'm like, I don't know. They're in Switzerland. Why don't they start off with Swiss? Like, I don't know. Does she judge him by the way he looked and assumed he was Italian? I don't know.
A big hairy dude, yeah, he must be a dude.
I don't know what that was.
But it's a nice sweet meet cute, and then like he's just kind of like up in the mountains of Switzerland, and she just happens to find him.
The big hairy dude.
I don't know why I said that.
But like we're both hairy dudes.
I'm not hairy at all. Huh. I have a patch of hair on my chest.
What's that on your face?
Oh, my beard. I don't know. I don't really think about that. When I think of like Robin Williams hairy, he's got like a wool jacket.
Yeah, that's different. Like, Robin Williams he's a Yeti. Like, you always see it poking out of his sleeves. I'm always like, oh, it's thick, it's soft.
It's got a sweater under the sweater. Yeah. So, and it's it's very clear that they're setting up this thing and that they are meant to be together.
Yeah.
It's like they are destined together. They are soulmates. And that's kind of a big theme for them in this movie.
Yeah.
The soulmates thing. So they kind of fast forward. They have a family. There's that awkward breakfast that there's clearly tension with the kids and the parents.
I just realized too, this movie is going to be kind of perfect for how we do our reviews.
How it's like little bullet points.
Yeah, it's just it like fades in, fades out. That bright white light kept fucking hurting my eyes.
Oh yeah.
I just realized that.
And then they drive off with the babysitter and they never come back because they die in a car accident.
Robin Williams is narrating this whole thing and these heartbreaking moments, and that's the last time we ever saw them alive. Fade out, cut to funeral. Like it's very
bullet pointy.
Yeah, it's like a dream. Like you're skipping into these different scenarios. Like you're in one moment you're in Cotton Candy Palace and then you're in hell. Like
and so that happens, and then it cuts to a little bit like 4 years down the line, and he's, at his doctor's office working with the children, and then his wife, who's having a hard time with her art curation, he then pulls out, like he kind of like saves the day with like an idea. Like, well, if you're missing these art pieces, then what about these ones? And he like pulls out his own private like stock of like of what they are and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's like it also, this whole thing really points out that because of the death of their kids, they definitely were on the verge. Because a lot of the times in these kind of situations, a loss like this can end a marriage a lot of times because the grief gets in between the two people. And this really makes it clear that it's dealt with, quote unquote. She's still dealing with it in a lot of different ways. But they're okay.
Like he's trying to be her rock.
Yeah, like the anchor and everything. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting thing too, is that we just kind of really quick in the beginning breeze over what actually happened in the last 4 years. But they seem like they're okay. They're not great, but they're okay. They're not angry at each other or actively acting out like that
anymore.
Yeah, they're still which we find out later. We get more of like what actually happened, but I just thought it was interesting that we kind of skipped over that and we're like, this is them now. Yeah, things are tense and not great, but they're okay. Like they're still trying to take care of each other and stuff.
And so he's like, and it'll be perfect for us to like showcase one of your paintings, and I'll go pick it up and I'll bring it over. And that's kind of like that's the leading into the inciting action of this movie. Because if he didn't have to go get that painting, he wouldn't have been on the freeway where there's a bad car accident happening, and he wouldn't have gotten hit by a car.
This is one of the moments that leads into the regret, because he went to grab her paintings for her job, and that leads to a car accident, which he, being a doctor, gets out to try and help a car that has been turned over with a woman and a baby in the back seat. Another car comes careening and causes like a domino effect for him to get hit by one of the cars.
So what shitty drivers are going on like not stopping when there's a bunch of stopped cars?
Well, I mean, the shitty driver the one that started was a shitty driver because going careening into the obviously not open lane. Yeah, and that's kind of what incited it. But
stupid drivers.
So then it shows him being like taken care of by EMTs, paramedics, and then him in the hospital. But during this time, there's this voiceover of someone talking to him that he can't see, and it's
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah, it's Gooding Jr. and kind of like easing him into this, like, you're dying, kind of like I'm your guardian angel, leading you to the next plane of existence. And then he dies, and then he wakes up at his wake, right? He comes back at his wake. Oh, no, his funeral. No.
At his funeral. No, he kind of like, he sees his physical form at his funeral.
But before that, he's at his wake, and he can't see himself.
That's right. And so then it was his post-wake. So, yeah.
But yeah, and then it goes into this whole kind of, again, this mental idea of, because when you see him in his wake, he's kind of this free, it's a first-person point of view, and it's kind of
like he's just like floating.
Yeah, like he's floating there, and
it's like he's an idea floating around looking at stuff.
And it's this interesting idea. Then Junior shows up, and he's this very naked. He looks naked.
He looks naked, yeah.
Naked, kind of like wispy spirit.
He almost looks like a smudged painting.
Yeah. And he basically explains that Chris is not ready to see him entirely yet.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an interesting idea, because this goes back into that whole what is your mind, what is you kind of thing.
What are you ready to face? What are you ready to... Yeah.
And it's very clear, too, that Annie is still connected to Chris. Yeah. By his presence, she can kind of like sense him. Like he yells something about like, I can't be dead, and she like reacts to it. It's
there's also, it's not only just like that she's connected, like he's so connected to her, like he's kind of haunting her. Like when he, like at the funeral, he goes up and he touches her face, and she can feel him on her lips. Yeah. You know? And then like he like controls her to like write that letter, like, I'm not dead. It's like, that's fucking terrifying.
I was like, dude, for someone that's like, especially right now in a very emotional state, especially already she is in one after the kids, you're making this so much worse. I understand that you're trying to help. Yeah. But this isn't Ghost, man. Like you need to like, no, like he's
trying to tell you that he's still there, that he still exists in whatever like form that the afterlife can be. And then finally, he like, while she's like at his grave, he tries to give her a hug, and she feels his presence, and she just screams because it's too much for her.
And then that's when he has the realization that he needs to go away for her to be okay. Yeah. Which is an interesting idea too, about like, if you're gonna go into more like supernatural ideology kind of stuff, like what if that is like someone that can't get past the point of grief? What if the like person's like still like in a I need to be here for you like protective way, hanging around, and you can't get rid of that attachment ever, because there's always kind of still lingering.
And that's there is that is a theory in the I can't remember the actual like ghosts theory stuff. There's a technical term that I'm paranormal, not investigation.
Ectoplasm.
No, that's what ghosts leave behind.
Ectoplasm. Anyways.
Okay.
So
yeah, he finally goes to kind of like his heaven, which he's struggling to kind of piece together. It's literally paint. Cuba Gooding Jr. Arthur is like, oh, I've never seen someone actually use paint. This is when the movie, honestly, for me, kind of like, I got really checked out. Because it just kind of like really starts turning into just like very like episodic or like very segmented, like disjointed.
Well, to pause you real quick, also the paint thing is because they have this double D like anniversary holiday, and Annie was making Chris this painting of like their dream land that they're going to retire to. Yeah. Like with a dream house in this beautiful valley. Their heaven.
She's painting their heaven, or his heaven.
So when he passes away, he ends up in this world that he's created that is this painting, but it's actually paint. Mm-hmm. He grabs the flower and he squishes it, and it's blue paint. And I just, it's not just randomly a painting. It's like, it's significant to their relationship.
And like the dog that passed away, or that they had to put down earlier on the movie, is there. And then like he's still trying to like grasp that what this new reality is, like what is this afterlife? And Arthur's kind of helping him, and then like Annie just kind of appears random points, and then a really sad moment, like the tree that had never like that he didn't create, that Arthur didn't create, that was painted by Annie, and then she like throws the paint thinner on it. That kind of made me tear up. It's really strange with this movie. Is like I felt very connected to the characters and what was happening with them, and moved by what they were experiencing. But then the movie itself, I was like so disinterested in.
Yeah, and I mean at this point, this whole movie and this segment becomes there is no spoon. It is your world, you can control. All the while, Chris is being taught by his old teacher, played by his old teacher that's young now. Because he didn't want to be 64 forever.
Who's actually not his old teacher, is actually his son.
In the form of his old teacher.
Because his son's like, it's the only person you ever listened to.
And he's like trying to like teach him
how to accept this world.
And how to control it and how to be in it. Mm-hmm. Which was also kind of really strange. I mean, I did really like it that when he started to accept the world no longer became paint, it became real.
Yeah, it became a reality.
That was cool. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Kind of random though.
I mean, you can really go down like, because of just with that little bit, like that. And I think that's a really big thing that Matheson was really wanting to talk about more, is like, what is reality and what is ourself? Like, are we the head? Are we the arm? If we separate our arm, is our arm still us, or are we now? Is that just like an is it? It's like our conscious mind is really what makes who we are.
Well, like in a beat around the bush way, what they're talking about is the idea of spirit, and they never actually really say that, because he even says, "Well, if I am anything, I am my mind," and he goes, "Well, like your mind is just your brain." Your brain will rot away and nothing will be there. So what are you? It's like, well, you're saying spirit without saying the word spirit. Just say the fucking word.
Well, but like even like in a scientific sense, like the idea of spirit or soul is still just like not it's not fully understood, because I mean it's such an untangible thing that it's like our thoughts and our brains, it's made of, it's like, oh yeah, the synapses inside of our brain, but like, what is this consciousness that we hold on to, this reality that we connect ourselves to? Like, what does that actually mean? Is there something more fantastical about that, or is it something much more very basic, grounded scientific stuff? Are we literally just like a bunch of like, are we just a flash of a lightning bolt that has a memory of something until we then die and rot? Or are we something more than that?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, did I get way
no,
too
I'm like
existential?
I'm like, yeah, but I'm talking about specifically what they're saying in this movie.
Well, that's what I'm talking. Well, even so, but they're asking that question in this movie. Yeah, they kind of go a little bit more with like the afterlife, and they continue like that is like the afterlife for the movie and whatnot. But I feel like that's what the question. That's what Matheson was like. That was a thing that he was wanting to, have a dialect of, like,
Okay. I think I get you.
Okay.
What now?
Hamlet? I don't know. I remember I wanted to bring up some Hamlet stuff, but I don't know if we'll have time for that. So what? I mean, I guess we can go into the Leona thing because I don't know. Like, I mean, it's like he meets this woman who has her own heaven that she's created, and then he realizes it's actually his youngest daughter. I mean, that's really. I mean, I felt like it was such an unneeded part of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
The movie, in my opinion, doesn't really get interesting until we find out what happened with Annie and then the journey into hell.
Yeah, I mean, but I just crack up too about that whole dialogue with her. Like,
it's like
he always said that Asian women were so beautiful and intelligent, and we were trying to avoid bringing that up because I was like, I'm like, that's the weirdest. That's the weirdest dialogue I've heard. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it was weird dialogue for this conversation. It was very bizarre. But yes, so basically the daughter who has been in this other plane of existence for 4 years.
Also, time doesn't really exist in the same form. Like it can be eternal, or it can be like a heartbeat.
And that was interesting too, because we never really got to know exactly how long Annie was dealing with this on her own. Mm-hmm. Because because clearly they made her look older. She had a totally different haircut. She had like a couple grays. Like, so for all we know, this could have been another 4 years for her.
Yeah.
For us, it's an afternoon. Or for Chris, rather, it's like it's an afternoon. Mm-hmm. But it's this whole conversation, and basically, what's the daughter's name?
Katie?
That's the dog.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit.
I can't remember now. I'm totally blanking. Marie. Marie is explaining that one time on a flight, Chris was drooling over a flight attendant, I guess.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I honestly checked out of this entire scene. I literally But
what sucks about it too is that the end of the scene is really sweet because it's father and daughter being reunited.
Yeah, and I felt that sweet. And I was like, okay, cool.
But
like,
then it was just weird.
This is one of those. It was literally because this isn't part of the book. I really felt like this was a weird, like, we need to have his like connected journey. Chris is like into it. Like, I feel like this is the Hollywood forced narrative.
Yeah, and what you said something earlier too is like the kids are like testing him.
Yeah.
And it is that feeling, but I think what the idea was, at least for me, what I think was the idea, and it was just poorly executed, is that they're trying to ease him in to everything.
Yeah.
So it's not like too emotionally overwhelming, like the kid's just showing up on his front step, like suddenly after 4 years after being dead, like was my justification for it.
Fuck, rip the Band-Aid off.
But it's very bizarre. So yeah, both of his kids are running around as different people.
It started to feel like, oh, let's how much more metaphysical and like over the like metaphorical can we make this movie?
I mean, her heaven was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a heaven that they had created together while they were playing chess. It was part of her room or whatever.
And that's an interesting idea too, is that you can travel between these different heavens.
Yeah.
So it's like I could go to yours and you could go to mine, but ours are alone, which also seems really lonely.
Yeah.
But you still have the option to transverse into these other, I don't know.
It's some weird multi-dimensional shit, man.
It really is. It's like a multiverse kind of conversation at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the soul does exist, it's going to exist outside of space and time as well.
So at this point, Walt shows up. Is that his name?
Walt?
Gooding Jr. Arthur shows up and basically is like, I have some bad news. You're not going to like it. But Annie's dead. And that was also really great too. That entire scene's actually pretty good. Except for the shit that doesn't make sense. No, but like, I mean the performances, because first Robin Williams goes through immediate sadness because his wife is dead. Like, of course he's sad, but then he has this moment of joy where he realizes, oh wait, that means I can see her again.
Yeah.
And then Arthur's like, JK, the problem is that she actually ended up killing herself and they go somewhere else. They don't go here.
Yeah.
And then it turns into Robin Williams getting Chris pissed because of basically
you said there are no rules here, so what do you like?
Yeah, and then and the whole by committing suicide, she disrupted the natural order of things. So she needs to be in a place of basically repetition where she doesn't, forever has to live in her sadness.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird Sisyphus. She's pushing the boulder up the hill constantly.
Yeah,
and when it's before she, and and it falls down all.
And then Chris has this really great, like, kind of like, this is, I think he even says this is bullshit. Like, basically, because of everything that happened to me and her children, she was suffering, and now you're gonna let her make, and kind of blaming Arthur too. Mm-hmm. You're gonna make her suffer, and he's like, "This isn't I didn't do this.
Yeah,
this is just how it works." And then there's the whole.
He
says there's no rules.
Yeah,
like, and that was just and that's that whole, like, it didn't really make sense. But I mean, we're also talking about the afterlife. Like, I'm not even gonna touch that one.
Yeah.
But it was a really great performance of Robin.
Well, then this is when the movie turns into, now it's going to be a journey into hell to try to save Annie. And this is what Chris wants to do. Is like, even if he can't save her, he wants to go and see her and say goodbye one last time.
Yes. So they find this tracker and they go to the Sea of Hells. And man,
that's a really cool scene.
It was cool. I remember too when that was coming up, I was like, I remember as a kid really
terrifying.
Really being into this end part here, and found like, really? I'm like, are you that surprised by it? Like, shit's dark and cool.
Yeah, all the dead, like, the people coming out of the water and how they're washed up on shore and shit.
That's one thing that bugged me, and it's also because it could have been like a timing thing, is that this is where it goes super Dante's Inferno, where there are these different types of personal hells that everyone's dealing with, but there's no explanation of, like, why are these people in the ocean? What is their I guess sin that put them there? Because also in the initial conversation, they don't talk about sins taking you to hell. It's really specifically, just in this case, for Annie's suicide.
Well, in a weird thing.
So how else do you get to hell?
I mean, also in a weird thing to think about is, like, this in a theological sense. This movie doesn't really have any kind of, like, Christian, like, roots, major Christian or even major Catholic. It kind of takes an idea of theology and creates its own, like, theological rules. So, like, these are people that they maybe they have killed themselves as well. Maybe they were horrible people. Well, I think the ground of faces, you can tell, like, those were people that probably just did bad morally things.
Well, because if you listen to
morality is questionable. But these people in the water, at some point, the tracker's like, people that have come out here, the worst thing is, like, you could just lose your mind, and that's you, because that's all you have now in the afterlife. Is the reality doesn't matter. The reality is your mind, your soul, and if you lose that, then you have nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened to these people. They have just lost that.
I see.
So it's not really necessarily like why or how, it's just like that's what's happened to them.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I.
And that's why,
it's a very River of Styx type of thing as well.
Yeah, with them floating around and everything.
I kept thinking a lot about a Greek mythology in this. Like, there was even
well, that's what I was gonna say. Well,
Persephone and who he takes her from Hades. He can't look back at her.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. No, you're talking about them. Well, I was gonna say until you said that, I was like, well, no, just also the. In a lot of ways, inherently, the idea of hell does go into Catholicism and Christianity, but then also there is the hell that initially the hell that they create is very River of Styx, and then as they get more inward towards hell, then it kind of goes fire and brimstone and a bunch of sunken ships, and this is also when we get the big reveal that Arthur is in fact not Arthur; it's actually his son Ian. And this is the only guy you listen to. But even then, that was where he, like, goes up to those people that are, like, protecting, and they're, like, going to attack him. And he grabs Ian. He's like, and that's when he realizes it's Ian.
I just remember just kind of connecting and, like, kind of what we're all been talking about with, like, these theological, philosophical, and paranormal stuff. Is I just remembered I read on Wiki is, like, what Matheson was talking about or trying to do is, like Matheson claims in an introductory note that only the characters are fictional and that most everything is based on research, like we were talking about, like it through like things that he just explored through like astral projection, telepathy, seance, and this term Summerland. which is a name for a simplified heaven in theosophy, and for heaven in general religions such as Wicca.
Okay.
So like, yeah, it's like there is like, because of heaven and hell and the afterlife and whatnot, that's in any type of like, like type of religion or theological like idea. But this one is kind of like he's trying to do like the more simplified, like this isn't Christian, this isn't Catholicist, or Catholic, this isn't Jewish, this isn't, it's just this.
But yeah, but this is also when we have that realization that Arthur's actually Ian.
Yeah.
And they have this whole heartfelt thing while these like people are attacking them. I noticed that like they had this embrace and the people are still like right there.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? And then does this pan out? And did you notice they're frozen? Like as soon as they stop trying to go into that ship.
Oh, it froze? They just, the people froze?
Yeah, they just.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Well, because they're trying to go on this ship called Cerberus. Going back into the
Greek mythology,
three-headed dog.
Yeah.
And as Ian/Arthur is trying to go in, there's these people with like spears and guns and like screaming at him, and Chris pulls them away. And as they're having this whole heartfelt thing, I'm like, well, there's still these people right here with spears and guns and stuff. Let's get away with them before we have this moment. But then if you keep looking in the background and just kind of like as the camera changes, the actors are just not moving. And I was like, is that because they were attempting to go in, and since they're not going in anymore, they're not a threat, and that's just what these people do? They just stand there and make sure that you can't get in. I just thought it was very bizarre.
I don't know. I was checking out again at this, but literally whenever the children, like it was a weird revelation that, oh, it's the children. I was like, what? This is fucking like, I literally like thought like this is stupid. Mm-hmm. I did not like it at all. I thought it was taking out of the journey and the story of what Chris needed to do for Annie.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is not. Yeah.
This is the globbity goop.
Yeah. And it's like, literally, it was like, I was so like disinterested in all that stuff. And then like when I read like the differences in the novel too, I was like, fuck, I want to watch that movie. Like, yeah. That sounds more interesting.
This would be a good mini series.
It could,
project.
Maybe like a couple, like 4 episodes.
6 episodes.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how long the novel is.
Well, I just feel like, because then you could actually like really like explore the ideologies a little bit more.
I don't know how much you really need to.
You haven't read
honestly.
the book.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it like this is kind of when Tracker's like, okay, now Ian can't be there because since Chris has been thinking about his son too much, he's lost his connection with Annie. Okay. And they essentially, well, let's see. He goes through the Valley of Faces, which is weird, and I felt like it was cool, but also I don't know.
That was Werner Herzog.
Oh, one of the faces?
Yeah, the one he talks to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he thinks this is his dad for a second?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't realize. I mean, I'm assuming. I just see his name right here as Face. I'm assuming that's...
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, makeup, but
the voice, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't put that together. Huh.
He thinks he sees Annie in the faces, then he falls through the faces, and then they essentially find her really quick after that.
Yeah, and she's in this kind of like...
She's in their house.
Yeah, the house made me think of, because it was also Rob Williams, made me think of the house at the end of Jumanji.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
After the flood and after everything.
Now, this is like probably one of the most heartbreaking moments of the entire movie.
So basically, it is made clear by the tracker that if you spend too long in her reality and what she's dealing with, you too will succumb to said reality.
Yeah.
So you only have X amount of time. He says 3 minutes, but it's definitely longer than that. But let's just say you haven't as much time as your mind can handle, basically. And they have this back and forth, and Annie clearly remembers her family dying, but she still thinks she's in her initial house and like is aware of things being off. Like there's no electricity, there's no power, there's no running water, there's no gas.
It's her own hell. Like this is
but I'm pointing out is the fact that she still has some recollection of who she was,
which is like that's a nightmare.
Yeah, and it's kind of more that's just kind of confused at where she is. Mm-hmm. Like anytime she tries to think about what happened, it kind of just goes like beep,
but with a constant
delete.
Desire of wanting to see Christy again, wanting to see her children again,
and Chris talking to her, she has no recollection that is her husband.
Yeah,
and it's really just him kind of trying to coax these memories and her mentally fighting him on it. Mm-hmm. Like she is not her hell is not allowing her to.
It's like he's also
recall.
He's portraying as a neighbor to jog her memory.
Yeah,
hoping to get her to realize that it's him type thing.
And just bringing up key things that only he would know. And there's like this whole time too. This entire movie is filled with like flashbacks of certain things that we're starting to get more of idea.
Yeah.
Like we do find out that she once did try to during the 4-year period where after their kids passed away, she was committed. She did try to commit suicide, and
it almost tore their relationship, their marriage apart.
And he admits that he, in his own grief, kind of shut off emotionally and left her alone to deal with it because he was dealing with it a different way. As in, I'm going to be the rock, the anchor.
It's like, I thought I had to be the strong. I thought the silence was the strong. I thought it was being a rock.
As opposed to just accepting the grief and going through it. Mm-hmm. She felt alone, and that led her to being institutionalized.
Yeah. And then he shows up with the, as he calls it, the D-Day, and then they end up calling it the double D-Day because it's like, he's like, this is the divorce, and what's the other word? I forgot what the other D.
Decision?
Decision, yeah. You have a decision to make.
Yeah.
And then she kind of like, it sounds like that's a double D-Day. And like kind of actually strangely like lightens the mood with a really off the beaten joke, very dark joke.
And so they basically, this double D-Day is the day they decided not to get divorced.
They decided to try again. Yeah. And that they weren't like, he opens up to her about how he messed up and how the way that he was dealing with grief wasn't like there for her. And like, pretty much like, I don't want you to give up and I don't want to give up on you.
Yeah.
And they find a way through it. And it's actually very moving, very beautiful. And
like we already said, them two alone and together, they did really, really great. Like so their performances were really good.
Chris goes out to Tracker and tells him that, he's come here and he's said his goodbye. And then he tells Tracker to go back and tell his kids goodbye because he's going to stay here with her because that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, right there, I was like, I want this movie to end I want it to end here. I want this sad ending. Mm-hmm. That's what this movie needed, in my opinion, was them like the soulmate thing is like, I will stay here forever with her, even though she is in constant pain and torture. I will live in that. Well,
that's another difference in the book too, is that she's like, it's not an eternity. She's supposed to be stuck there. It's 20 years in the book.
24 years, and then there's also a reincarnation is a constant thing in the book. Not like in the movie, they make it as a choice. Like you can choose to be reincarnated, but in the book, it's like it happens. Mm-hmm. So, and like there's also a big thing of like they are soulmates, which is a rare thing in the world. So like as soulmates, they are destined to end up together every single time in every world. So like their souls together will always be in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so essentially, so he goes in there and
she remembers.
She starts to remember, and then he succumbs to her reality, and then it's her journey now to kind of pull him out and save him. But like,
we never really see what.
Yeah, it's kind of more. It kind of turns into more of a huge metaphorical thing of like, since he got her to actually remember and recognize him, she was able to find salvation, and they were able to go back to his reality.
Well, and then I guess also if you want to try and make sense of it too, we don't know how long she was there for. Because time is so weird, and also for all we know, time in hell and time in heaven, time on earth are all completely different. So maybe she was in there longer. Time is a
construct, yeah.
Maybe she was in there longer than he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he was easier to pull out because he wasn't, and also he wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. For as long as she, I mean, there's a bunch of like,
I mean, at the end of the day, is like
rationale you can try to make for it.
At the end of the day, you can kind of like argue is like he saved her, so then she could save him.
Yeah.
What is it? Sometimes when you lose, you win.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when you win. Well, it's like it starts off with sometimes when you win. Why is it when you win, you sometimes lose? Like there's the negative of it, but then at the end, they're like sometimes when you lose, you win. And they're able to turn it around for the happy ending. And then they're in their heaven together, and then they decide like, hey, we can go and let's go back up there. Let's go back into the real world and live it all over again, and we can come back.
Yeah, but it's also like that's also when it got cheesy, but I really did like I didn't get it, but I thought it was sweet that he was like, so we can find each other and fall in love all over again. And you're like,
And so yeah, no, it's just, it kind of made me think of Futurama with Fry and Leela constantly reliving their date over and over. And then the professor's like, "You want?" Oh no, what does he say? What do you say? You want to do it all over again? Oh, okay, I'm starting to cheer up. Sorry. Why is it Futurama gets me going with this? Like,
and like the kids are like the kids are fine with being abandoned because they know that it will be a heartbeat for them, and a lifetime for their parents, and they can have fun. I don't know, have fun in the real world. Like, I don't know, heaven seemed pretty fun. But my understanding is too with the alternate ending because
I was just gonna already look that up. Oh, here we go.
Because Annie did commit suicide, she has to reincarnate.
Yes.
So he can either stay in heaven or go with her.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal is like they already know what their lives are going to be. He's born in Philadelphia. She's born in Sri Lanka. She has a disease. She's going to end up dying, and then Chris is going to have to be alone for 40 years until he passes away, and they get reunited in heaven.
Yeah, because whereas it's so the ending from the novel, in which reincarnation is not a choice but part of the natural order, Chris and Annie will meet again in their new lives, but Annie must atone for killing herself. Her new incarnation will die young, and Chris will spend the remainder of his life as a widower before the two again reunite in heaven. And the film goes to Sri Lanka, where, like you just said, where they're presumably born.
Yeah.
But I think but who explains that? You watched the alternate ending. Was that explained?
Yeah, well, it's like straight up just they explain it like that.
Like, who explains it though?
The kids.
Okay.
The kids in their alternate forms.
So it's actually Arthur and like in the book it would have been Arthur and Leona, right?
Yeah, Leona.
Yeah.
I think Leona. But yeah, like, well, because the original ending is they agree to being reincarnated, and it cuts to two little kids on a river meeting.
It's like the boat at the beginning of it.
Yeah, like it does like a homage to the.
And it's got a nice little like complete circle.
Yeah, and it's clearly them in these reincarnated forms meeting again. In the other ending, they're on opposite sides of the world, and both kids are being born, and then it shows both babies in this kind of like glowy thingy next to each other, and then it fades out to black, and so it's like just so one of them is them, the other one's them, but I don't know. I definitely remember liking this movie a lot more before.
I'm
glad I rewatched it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is like I think just as a society, and I don't know, because even like the critics, like when it came out, they kind of had like a rough time with it. It doesn't have as coherent and strong of a story as I think like what the novel had, pretty much.
I mean, I'm going to go with what I said in the beginning of this, too, is they were trying to make, with Robin Williams and everything, they were trying to make a box office hit when it was not, that's not what it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should have tried to make an interesting message and not worry about the box office, because even then it didn't do great anyways. And it's because I think you were trying to force too much down people's throats.
I agree. Yeah.
And especially when it comes to this, especially when it comes to like religious ideas, too, and also not committing to, this isn't Constantine, where it's based on Christianity and there's the devil, and you know what I mean? It's a very loose spiritual movie, and you needed to let people make their own kind of conclusions and ideas with it, and as opposed to just kind of and a lot of the dialogue textbook explaining things vaguely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, this happens because of this. Why? That's
because it's the rule.
But you said there's no rules. There is one rule. You don't talk about the rules. I was just like, All
right, Fight Club.
But yeah. What do you give it?
I kind of feel like, honestly, for me, it was kind of like a mogwai that's eaten after midnight.
Yeah, what's like a 6 out of 10 kind of thing?
Hey, lower. I mean, it's all like, because after midnight, that means it's turning into a gremlin.
I know, but a 5 out of 10 would be a gremlin.
Yeah, I guess so.
So like a 6 out of 10?
5.5 out of 10.
5.5 out of 10, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
I'm trying to give people an idea of what our rating system is.
It's a beautiful movie, like visually, it is super captivating.
Well, that's why it's not a gremlin.
Yeah,
it's visually really cool, but the performances between the two of them are really good. Even there's a couple of moments with the kids.
The performance,
the flashbacks
with the kids,
specifically.
It's like it's very heartfelt, but it's just like at the end of it, I was like, the movie ended, and I was like, what is this? What am I learning out of this? What was the message?
It was too.
I feel like this movie that wants to give you a message, but like it became so Hollywood. It was like, no, it's just a happy love story. Like, no, I feel like they were trying to, like, Matheson was trying to tell something to me.
But then also it's like there'd be this really great dialogue back and forth, kind of whatever, immediately followed by something incredibly cheesy, something incredibly hollow.
Yeah.
And then there'd be another really great moment. You're like, oh, wow, this is like really heartfelt. This is really intense or whatever. Then followed by another stupid ass conversation where you're like, well, that, like, anytime you got a good taste in your mouth, a bit of bitter came in and ruined it a little bit.
It's like, I feel like this movie has it's trying to talk about acceptance in a big way, like of life and of like what happens, but I don't know.
And I guess the theme of regret comes in with Annie because she didn't drive her kids to school and she asked Chris to go, or she let him, quote unquote, go get the paintings. They died because of her.
I mean, it does kind of blow my mind how much. So the title of this movie comes from Hamlet's soliloquy of "to be or not to be," and really a lot of this movie and a lot of the themes are in that goddamn soliloquy. Because that soliloquy, it's questioning life and death. It's Hamlet kind of deliberating suicide. And he talks about like what it means for the afterlife. What does it mean for self? What does it mean to exist? You know, like I have the entire soliloquy up, but like it's just like, it was really interesting to kind of like know, like, it wasn't just like when they pulled out when Matheson named this What Dreams May Come. That soliloquy was really in his mind, I think. Like, there is a lot of like ties between it because of just like this question of what does it mean to be, you know,
or not.
You want me to read it? I don't know.
Let's let them go. Bye.
Yeah, actually, it is kind of getting kind of long. But if you want to read it, you know, you can find it online. It's easy to find. It's one of his most famous, or Shakespeare's most famous soliloquies.
So
I used to have it memorized, actually.
Are we continuing with the theme of regret?
Yeah, but why not? Like, yeah.
All right, so next week we're going to be doing Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Yeah, I think that'll be a more fun conversation, I think. Now we're going into relationship
Again,
stuff.
I don't know, again, too, because I don't know.
When's the last time you think you watched it?
I don't know.
I want to say it was definitely within the last 5 years, I want to say.
Probably 10 for me.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember not super liking it, so let's see.
Really?
Yeah. But
maybe it's just too sad for you.
Maybe.
You're like, why didn't they end up happy?
I don't know. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe. Check out our posts. We'll definitely put some, not references.
The suicide helpline?
Yeah, we'll put that on there.
Yeah, references.
References?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. And yeah, join us next week for Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, starring
people.
All right, right on. All right, thanks everybody. This is Tommy.
This is Jacob. Tommy and Jacob's Mixtape.